What if God has been speaking to you since the moment you were born, but you just never knew how to listen? Imagine this, it is midnight. The room is quiet, and only a small lamp glows softly in the corner of the desk. A person kneels down to pray. No one answers. There is only the sound of the wind slipping through the window frame and the slow rhythm of a heartbeat inside the chest. In that strange moment, he no longer knows whether he is praying or being called by name. From deep within, a soundless voice rises. I have never been silent. You just have not yet learned how to listen. Ibn Arabi, the great Sufi mystic, once said, "The conversation between human beings and God is not a metaphor. It is the natural breath of the soul. From the very moment we were born, He has whispered through everything around us, through the morning light, through a child's laughter, through the tears that fall on our cheeks. But in the rush of life, we have forgotten how to understand that language. Perhaps we have spoken too much, begged too much, and forgotten to listen. He was never far away. We just have not been still enough to realize He has always been here. So today, allow yourself to pause. Let go of all the noise and all the unanswered prayers. Just be still and listen. Because this message is not about how to ask God for what you want. It is about how to hear His voice in the rhythm of your own breath. And that journey begins with silence. God has never been silent. He is speaking not in words, but in the heartbeat of life itself. When you open your eyes to the light of a new day, when your heart trembles softly to an old song, when a raindrop hits the window and suddenly your soul grows quiet, that is when He is speaking to you. He speaks through the light, through the wind, through the breath, through the people you meet by chance along the way. A glance, a smile, a random feeling of peace. All of these are unspoken answers. Sometimes, when you stand in the middle of chaos and fear, when everything seems to fall apart, and suddenly a wave of calmness passes through your heart. You do not know why, but in that instant, everything feels clear. That is God speaking through the silence of peace. Ibn Arabi wrote, "His voice does not sound through the ears, but through the deepest layers of existence. That sound cannot be heard by hearing alone. It can only be felt by the heart. But to truly hear, we must stop speaking. We must become silent within. Because when we stop trying to prove, when we stop trying to control, we begin to hear the voice of the one who has always been there, present in every breath, every drop of water, every tiny rhythm of life. If you pause, if you simply sit and listen, you will realize that everything around you is responding to you. A flower answers with its fragrance. A stream answers with its gentle murmur. And your heart answers with its quiet trembling. God is always speaking. He speaks in every moment, just waiting for you to be still enough to hear. Most of us pray as if we are negotiating with God. We talk a lot, ask for a lot, and hidden inside those words are our fears. Fear of being abandoned, fear of being ignored, fear that life will not go our way. But Ibn Arabi reminds us, prayer is not an exchange, it is a homecoming. Think of this when a child cries for its mother. It does not need beautiful words or clever persuasion. It simply reaches out its tiny hands, and the mother immediately understands. That is how the soul should speak to God, with absolute trust, with innocence, with a heart free of calculation. You do not need fancy words. You do not need poetic phrases. You do not need to prove that you are good enough to be heard, because He has already heard you long before you ever called His name. A single tear of longing, a trembling breath whispering, "My Lord," holds more power than 1,000 polished prayers. Because God does not listen with ears. He listens through the vibration of the heart. But as we grow older, we ask too much for worldly things. We ask for health, for money, for fame, for success, and we forget the holiest thing of all, His presence within us. And when all we do is ask, our hearts slowly close. They grow tired, dry, and heavy, for they have lost the connection to pure love. God does not need perfect prayers. He only needs you to truly want to meet Him, not to ask for more, but simply to be near him, to rest in the arms of his presence. In its deepest meaning, prayer is not a request. It is a return to the child within, who only knows how to love, how to trust, and no longer knows how to fear. How many times have you prayed sincerely, only to be disappointed that God said nothing? You waited for a sign, a dream, or something unmistakable, but only silence answered. Then you began to doubt. Does he hear me? Is he really there? But Ibn Arabi said, his silence is not his absence, it is another form of dialogue. For in that silence, our hearts are being trained to wait, to love without condition, and to find him not through sound, but through presence. God is silent because he wants you to hear yourself. He is silent because only in stillness can your soul become clear enough to realize that he has never left. Like a lover who hides, not to abandon, but to deepen the longing to be found again. There was once a man who prayed for many years. Every day he asked, "My Lord, why do you not answer me?" Until one day he knelt down in silence, said no words at all, and tears began to fall on their own. In that moment, he understood. God had always been there, right within that silence. Because true prayer is not a request. It is a meeting when we no longer need an answer, when all we want is to rest in his presence. Then silence itself becomes the language of love. Silence is no longer an empty space. It becomes a sacred place where the soul is fully embraced. There comes a moment in life when all words feel unnecessary, when your heart longs so deeply that it no longer knows what to say, and there is only silence and tears. That is the moment when God is listening, with all the mercy in his heart. Because he does not need words, he only needs the true vibration of your heart. When the yearning of the soul touches the mercy of God, the world suddenly stands still. There is no longer a distance between the one who prays and the one who is prayed to. Only a warm light remains, gentle, vast, and wrapping every wound in tenderness. Ibn Arabi once said, "Every prayer is heard, but the answer comes in the way the heart needs, not in the way the mind wants." Sometimes we think our prayers have not been answered, but perhaps he is waiting for us to love him, not just what he gives. God does not measure love by the words we speak, but by the depth of our longing. When we truly long for him, everything else begins to fade. Fear dissolves, desires grow quiet, and the soul begins to remember its way home. Every pain, every trial is truly a hidden doorway leading us closer to him. When we lose something, it is because he is clearing space to give us himself. In that sacred moment when longing meets mercy, we realize we were never forgotten. Every whisper, every sigh, every upward glance, they are all heard, not through the ears, but through the light of his presence. So if your prayer has not yet been answered today, do not be sad. Perhaps he is smiling, waiting for you to love him, not just the gifts he gives, because true love asks for no reward. It is the reward itself. When we love God for who he is, every desire melts away, and the soul finally rests in the arms of infinite mercy. God does not speak in letters, nor in sound. He speaks in vibration, something you cannot hear with your ears, but can only feel through the life beating in your heart. Everything in the universe is singing. Even the stones have the song of silence. The wind sings through freedom. The water sings through movement. The fire sings through light, and human beings sing through the breath of the soul. If we become still enough, we can hear that invisible symphony, where every atom vibrates in harmony with God. Sometimes it is a sound as soft as a breeze touching your skin, a sudden warmth in your heart when you see the first light of dawn, or a tear falling for no clear reason. That is not just emotion. That is his voice resonating within every cell of your being. Ibn Arabi once said, Sound is not only a wave in the air, but a wave in the soul. Everything in existence speaks that same language. Birds do not sing to entertain us. They sing to remind us that life itself is a sacred song. The ocean does not roar because of its waves. It sings of its longing to return to its source. And when our hearts become pure again, we begin to understand that language, a language without words, yet echoing through every heartbeat. He speaks through your pulse. He speaks through your sighs, through the eyes of the one you love, and even through the silence you once thought was empty. If you listen deeply enough, you will realize every atom in the universe is whispering. There is nothing but him. And in that very moment, your soul joins the music of the cosmos, and you realize he has never been far. He has been singing through you. If God has always been speaking, then why do we hear nothing? Because between him and us, there have grown invisible walls, built from the noise of the mind. We hear too many other voices. The voice of fear, the voice of calculation, the voice of endless desire, and the voice of the past that refuses to let go. They are so loud that they drown out the softest voice of all the voice of the soul. Like a mirror that was once bright, but has now been dulled by dust, by worries, anger, and comparison. We can no longer see God's reflection, not because he has disappeared, but because light cannot reflect on a surface clouded by noise. Ibn Arabi said, "A saint is not different from you, only that his heart has been washed clean enough to hear." That heart does not need to be perfect. It only needs to be real, to dare to open, to melt, and to allow itself to be loved. To hear God, you do not need to travel far, nor seek an intermediary. You only need to cleanse the inside. Begin with stillness. Be still enough to hear your breath again. Be still enough to feel your heartbeat tapping the rhythm of life. And in that stillness, you will realize he is still speaking, softly, like a trace of fragrance. But to hear him, we must learn to make space for him through forgiveness, through gratitude, through releasing the things that weigh the heart down, because only in a heart that has been purified does the sound of God become clear. If you truly wish to hear his voice, do not search outside. Listen to the deepest silence within yourself, the place where every other sound fades away and only his whisper remains. I am here. God does not need your worship. He does not demand perfect rituals, nor does he expect polished praises. He only desires that your love becomes mature, a love free from fear, free from condition, a love as free as the breath itself. In that moment, all prayers dissolve. There is no longer, please give me this. There is only, please let me be yours. And that is the moment when the soul is truly set free. Every pain, every loss, every long night that feels hopeless is in truth his gentle reminder. Nothing exists but me. As long as you cling to what is outside, your love is not yet deep enough. As long as you ask him to change the world, you have not yet seen that he already lives within every grain of its dust. But when love ripens, you stop asking. You no longer wish for him to do anything for you. You only wish to be with him. To have him is enough. Ibn Arabi said, "The lover does not seek reward. Love itself is the reward." And in that moment, the boundary between you and God disappears. You no longer pray to a distant being. You pray as part of him. You begin to understand. Every breath is a hymn of praise. Every heartbeat is a song of gratitude. And every tear is the melody of the soul singing in harmony with the Creator. And then something miraculous happens. There is no longer the one who prays and no longer the one being prayed to. There is only pure love looking at itself. You are no longer a tiny grain of sand in the desert. You are the desert itself, hiding within a single grain of sand. Light begins to spread. Your breath merges with the universe. The soul returns home. into the arms of the one who has loved it since the beginning of time. That is when love becomes ripe, and you no longer search for God anywhere else because he is already breathing with you. After all the prayers, the tears, and the silences, you may ask yourself, how can I truly hear his voice? The answer begins with returning inward. You do not need to change the world. You only need to spend a few minutes each day listening to your own heart. Try these 3 small steps, simple yet capable of opening a sacred door. Step 1, be still every day, just 5 minutes. Sit quietly, close your eyes. Do not ask, do not expect. Simply feel your heartbeat. That heartbeat is his voice, the same voice that has been speaking all along. Step 2, speak to him within. No rituals, no beautiful phrases are needed. Just say, I am here. And then be silent. Let him continue the conversation. Step 3, write down the moments of peace. When you feel your heart become lighter, when tears fall for no reason, when a small light flickers in your chest, that is his answer. God does not speak through sound. He speaks through peace, through light, through the quiet vibrations that only a still heart can feel. Practice listening to him every day. And each breath, each smile, and each silence that seems empty, because it is there that he waits for you. He has never been far. He has never been silent. It is only that we have not been silent long enough to hear. When you whisper, my Lord, the universe responds with a light. Every star in the sky, every breeze that brushes your skin, every tear that falls on your cheek is part of the conversation between you and him. Because this dialogue did not begin with words, and it will never end with them. It happens within every heartbeat, in every moment you exist in this world, and when your heart finally learns to listen, you will realize everything, the rain, the light, the laughter, and the silence, is saying the same thing. I am here, and I still love you. If you have ever felt his nearness, share it in the comments below, because every story is a candle, and when we light them together, the world becomes just a little less dark. Subscribe to this channel, and let us learn together how to hear the voice of God in every living moment